Hello everyone, Rorius here. Now, I started recording Portal 2's developer commentary when I realized that some of the developer commentary that I was talking about and looking at actually overlaps with stuff that was talked about in the developer commentary for Portal 1. So, I'm quickly, as fast as I can, making Portal 1 developer commentary playthrough. Hopefully I can get this done and still upload it in the same time. And this episode will hopefully go up this, standard time. But yeah, I thought I need to. Well, I feel like I need to do Portal 1's developer commentary first, just because stuff from the second game leads on from this developer commentary. So let's get going. So we've already done the speed run.
Welcome to
Game Name here.
Hopefully you've already had a chance to enjoy the offbeat perspective and new game mechanic of Portal. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game in order to show something to you. In these cases, simply press your use key again to stop the commentary. Please let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play, as we think we are just at the beginning of taking advantage of this type of gameplay. I can be reached at gaben@valvesoftware.com. Thanks, and have fun.
It's funny, in Portal 2, the Portal 2 developer commentary, he says, you can reach me at GABEN. Doesn't say Gaben. Oh dear. Now, there's gonna be some competing between developer commentary nodes and GLaDOS.
Your business is appreciated.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center. We hope
I think
your
I'll
brief
skip
detention
over this
in the
in the
relaxation
video.
vault has been a pleasant one.
I
Your
know, we'll see.
specimen has been processed,
Editing Rory
and
might
we are
decide
now
not
ready
to.
to begin the test proper. Before we start, however, keep in mind that although fun and learning are the primary goals of all enrichment center activities,
Okay, no, I've already done that
serious
one video.
injuries
I
may
mustn't
occur. For your own safety and the safety of others, please refrain from
imitate GLaDOS in another video.
Stand back. The portal will open in 3, 2.
I don't know which one's the first node.
It's absolutely critical.
Nope, okay, this one.
One of the things we learned.
No! Oh no, Gabe ends.
It's absolutely critical that players quickly wrap their heads around what a portal is. We noticed early playtesters grasped the concept much more quickly when they caught a glimpse of themselves through a portal. So we deliberately positioned this first portal to ensure that players will invariably see themselves.
Yeah, really intelligent design in my opinion. Interesting that they, it's like humans develop a sense of self when they see themselves in the mirror, that being able to see their own, I don't know, so it's almost utilizing like an innate human nature to help players understand how portals work. So
One of the things we learned from Narbacular Drop, our student project that became Portal, was that players often thought portals took them into other spaces, or even other dimensions. To help fight that notion, we start players in a visually unique room with memorable objects, so that when they walk through a portal for the first time, they have a clear point of reference which communicates the idea that they're still in the same basic location. For instance, the radio, which is playing an instrumental version of Still Alive, helps as well by providing some audio continuity.
Yeah, so you go through here and it's still playing. It's still here, it's playing. It's really, I think the design for this game is genius, brilliant.
We put the player character in an orange jumpsuit to reinforce the fact that she's a test subject.
Like a prisoner.
Visually, the warmer colors helped her pop out against the colder tones of her environment. Some playtesters were wondering why she could fall so far without getting hurt, the way she would have if she were in Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
In response, we added a mechanized heel spring to her lower legs. Afterwards, there was no longer any question about why she could survive such long falls.
Yeah.
These frosted glass observation rooms make the player feel as if they're being watched at all times, while keeping the identity of these watchers a mystery. The rooms serve a practical purpose as well, since we often use them as convenient and logical light sources for the test chambers.
That is something that I changed in talking about the mod now again. Portal Unity, one of the things that I've changed between the original mod and the recreation is that I've taken that idea on completely. All the lighting in the mod has been redone, to be, to come from a proper source. I didn't like the use of these little bars along the sides of the rooms for lighting. I didn't particularly enjoy implementing them. I didn't particularly enjoy their the way they came out when I tested them. So all the lighting in the rooms comes from these windows and from the light bars that they introduced in Portal 2, which are just little like glass ribbed looking, like sort of distorted looking little lights that are built into the wall. Usually like a bar like this, except it has lights on it. I felt like that was the nicest use, and definitely having the lights coming from these windows really helps sort of add sort of dimension to the lighting into the room structure.
Portal is effectively an extended player training exercise. We spend a huge portion of the game introducing a series of gameplay tools, then layering those tools into increasingly difficult puzzles. This layering starts here, where we train the button and box mechanic, before introducing the more complicated concept of portals.
Yeah. Very simple, but important.
Excellent.
Nonetheless.
Please proceed into the chamber lock after completing each test. First, however, note the incandescent particle field across the exit. This Aperture Science Material Emancipation Grill will vaporize any unauthorized equipment that passes through it. For instance, the Aperture Science Weighted Storage Cube.
I keep forgetting that because of the transmission update, this has been added to every chamber.
Please place the weighted storage cube on the 1500 megawatt Aperture Science Heavy Duty Super Colliding Super Button.
See, this room, I think they'll probably talk about it. I'll talk about it, this particular room in the Portal 2 developer commentary. So, watch that, and you'll get a little bit more commentary on this
Please move
room.
quickly to the chamber lock, as the effects of prolonged exposure to the button are not part of this test.
Okay.
We wanted players to feel safe while standing in a portal, so we never kill them or destroy objects within a portal that's closing. Instead, we either push or teleport objects out of a portal as it closes.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that design. While I like the idea of things being cut in half when the portal closes, it definitely makes for a more comfortable and better feeling game.
We very deliberately introduce and train each gameplay concept in Portal, so that once players reach this spot, we're confident that they know what a portal is and roughly how it works. Early versions of the game let players stumble through the beginning, without always understanding what was going on, which really compromised teaching new concepts. The puzzle you just finished was designed so that stumbling around will almost always lead to a dead end. Completing the puzzle requires walking through a minimum of 5 portals in a specific order. This kind of gating, in which a solid understanding of key gameplay concept is required for success, helped standardize the learning curve of the game tremendously.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that, this chamber is important, but the way they implemented it in Portal 2, the way they altered it, was actually far better, in my opinion, than what was originally here. And, I'll talk about that in the Portal 2 developer commentary.
You're doing very well. Please be advised that a noticeable taste of blood is not part of any test protocol, but is an unintended side effect of the Aperture Science Material Emancipation Grill, which may, in semi-rare cases, emancipate dental fillings, crowns, tooth enamel, and teeth.
In early versions of this map, playtesters would charge down the stairs without noticing what was creating the portals. We introduced a mandatory pause in the action, what we call a gate, to help ensure that players stop and notice the portal gun making the blue portal. The particle effect and a loud noise help draw their attention.
Yeah. That's actually, in a few places, if you look at like beta levels, there's a few places where that kind of thing happens, where there's a door in front of something, and a lot of the time it's usually implemented, in the beta versions there is a lack of door. There's just, people can just run straight through. Most of the time they add doors like that for that exact purpose, to slow the player down, help and force them basically to understand what it is that they're seeing, what it is that's happening around them.
Very good. You are now in possession of the Aperture Science handheld portal device. With it, you can create your own portals. These intradimensional gates have proven to be completely safe. The device, however, has not. Do not touch the operational end of the device. Do not look directly at
In
the
early versions-
operational end of the device. Do not submerge the device in liquid, even partially. Most importantly, under no circumstances should you...
Yeah, so I was just checking that was node 1. Haven't missed anything. Okay.
Please proceed to the chamber lock. Mind the gap.
Yeah. This is also, I talked a little bit about the design for these levels, is this level here as well, this design for this chamber. Recreated in Portal 2, there's a version there, and I mentioned a little bit once again in the developer commentary for that.
This room was designed to make players understand that entrance and exit portals aren't tied to the color of the portal. Playtesters often assume that orange portals were exit only, so we created this puzzle to force players to enter an orange portal.
Yeah. I actually mentioned that exact thing in the Portal 2 one, because there's essentially a recreation of this chamber for that exact same purpose, to make sure that players understand that you can enter and exit these portals.
When rendering the player's view through a portal, we must render a separate image using a virtual camera which looks out of the opposite portal. To obtain a correct image and efficient rendering performance, we render only what is visible through the limited field of view of the opposite portal and exclude objects which lie between the virtual camera and the plane of the opposite portal.
Yeah, that is really clever and quite difficult to implement in a lot of...
Well done. Remember, the Aperture Science Bring Your Daughter to Work Day is the perfect time to have her tested.
I have tried to replicate something similar just as like a one-off random goof in Unity, and it's quite difficult to get it to work exactly the way you want it. Yeah, you really need that culling of everything behind the camera.
The combination of portal-destroying fields, which we call fizzlers, and the elevators, serve a dual purpose. They provide a clearly identifiable endpoint for each test chamber, while also addressing the more practical problem of how to keep players from portaling across level loads. We eventually integrated the fizzlers into several of our puzzle designs.
Oh, it's up there.
To ensure the safe performance of all authorized activities, do not destroy vital testing apparatus.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go on. Let's not linger too much.
Welcome to Test Chamber 4. You're doing quite well.
Yeah.
For training purposes, there's generally just one correct solution to these early puzzles. The original version of this room didn't have the glass barrier. Playtesters would often stand on the button to open the door and then shoot a blue portal through the opening, bypassing the box entirely. Since this puzzle was meant to illustrate the relationship between boxes and buttons, that solution, while clever, was a failure. So we added the glass barrier to prevent it. Later in the game, however, the puzzles become more open-ended.
Yeah, so at the moment they had to sort of restrict players, despite the clever uses sometimes of portals.
Integrating portals with Source Engine's physics system was a complex process that required several iterations to achieve the right balance of performance and correctness. Because portals can be placed virtually anywhere in the game's environment, the physics system had to be modified to allow dynamic changes to its representation of colliding geometry, such as the walls and floor around this box, and any objects which may lie on the opposite side of the portal. Initial implementations of this dynamic collision generation system could take up to 1/2 of 1 second, or 500 milliseconds, to compute the correct collision. This may not sound like a long time in everyday life, but this pause during the portal creation was quite noticeable in the context of a game. Ultimately, we designed a system that creates temporary hybrid physics environments in bubbles around the portals, using less accurate collision than that produced by Source's standard collision generation, but was accurate enough in practice and reduced the time to create dynamic collision representation from 500 milliseconds to just 10 milliseconds, which is an imperceptible pause during portal creation.
Yeah. That's one of the main reasons it's so freaking hard to recreate portals in the likes of the Unity engine.
Once again, excellent work. As part of our required test protocol, we will not monitor the next test chamber. You will be entirely on your own. Good luck.
Okay, I'm just making sure...
Integrating
that's 2 of 3. What is this, 3?
For training...
No, 1 of 3. Oh, there must be 1 through the next bit.
Early versions of Portal featured more detailed, cluttered environments, much like Half-Life 2. We quickly realized that unnecessary objects scattered all over the place distracted players to the point where it actually interfered with the Portal training process. So we simplified the art style to favor clean, focused test chambers. The modular approach we settled on makes it look plausible that the chambers can reform dynamically on these pistons.
An idea that they very much furthered and took to an extreme in Portal 2.
As part of a required test protocol, our previous statement suggesting that we would not monitor this chamber was an outright fabrication. Good job. As part of a required test protocol, we will stop enhancing the truth in 3, 2, While safety is one of many enrichments, unbelievable. You,
Subject name here,
must be the pride of.
Subject hometown here.
Oh damn, the red lights disappeared now.
To make puzzles deeper than just teleporting to the exit, we had to include surfaces that won't hold a portal, which are formally introduced here.
Yeah.
We experimented with several surface designs before we settled on this one, whose visual noise and reflectivity make it easy to identify at a distance.
Yeah. I actually do like this design, but I think I do prefer the Portal 2 design. These had a much more bluish black color to very clearly differentiate. Alright, let's move on. I think the radio is somewhere up above there. Very well hidden. Visually, that is. Sound-wise, not at all.
Warning devices are required on all mobile equipment. However, alarms and flashing hazard lights have been found to agitate the high-energy pellet and have therefore been disabled for your safety.
That joke is a joke that's extended into Portal 2. Much like there's another joke about the emancipation of dental fillings and things like that, which is extended in Portal 2 with emancipation of ear tubes in the back of your head, which for me is far more... Emancipation of teeth is pretty disturbing, but for some reason ear tubes bothers me more. Anyway, we'll listen to this.
Originally, these scaffolds ran on electrified tracks, but crafty playtesters would hop along the rails to the exit, bypassing the puzzle entirely. We tried to solve this by killing players as soon as they touched the rails. That solution ended up being too much of an overcorrection, as even skilled playtesters were getting frustrated by these one-hit kills in the more complex puzzles later in the game. Making the scaffolds run along immaterial beams of light solved both problems.
Yeah. I think even having these platforms here like this causes problems because playtesters, speedrunners mostly, utilize the hell out of them to skip massive sections of chambers.
Now use the aperture science unstationary scaffold to reach the chamber lock. Please note that we have added a consequence for failure. Any contact with the chamber floor will result in an unsatisfactory mark on your official testing record, followed by death.
Alrighty, so I managed to skip Gladys' dialogue, sort of. Anyway.
Even though layering player training was a design goal from the start, we still ended up introducing some concepts too quickly. For instance, this used to be the first energy ball redirection puzzle. Playtesting revealed that this puzzle introduced too many new concepts at once, which ended up frustrating a lot of playtesters. In response, we inserted 2 test chambers before this one, to make the energy ball redirection training more gradual.
Yeah. I think because of the way we did our mod, the way we did Portal Unity, because we knew most of the people playing would be players of Portal, already know... Oh, actually, I'm not going to solve it just yet. People who would already know how energy balls would work, so I think we had one chamber where you just put an energy ball through a portal, and then we went straight into the double redirection like this. Yeah, so we skipped a little bit, but we still wanted it to feel like you were a new test subject just learning the ropes sort of thing. So we kept a lot of sort of what you'd call early level testing in.
We previously talked about how we handle static portal collision, but collision with moving objects on the other side of a portal is a completely different and equally hard problem. Walking onto this scaffold was a very iffy proposition for the first few months of development. We solved the problem of colliding with these dynamic objects by cloning the objects from one portal to the other and strictly controlling what objects are allowed to collide with each other and how they're allowed to collide.
That node doing that? Yeah, the node just showed you sort of how the engine was detecting a moving object near a portal. Interesting. Never noticed that before.
Very impressive. Please note that any appearance of danger is merely a device to enhance your testing experience.
After playing the speedrun of this before, that particular line, for whatever reason, got stuck in my head, and I kept that voice line repeated in my head over and over again all night, the following night.
The Enrichment Center regrets to inform you that this next test is impossible. Make no attempt to solve it.
I'm just gonna quickly solve it and then listen to the note.
For the first...
damn it. What am I doing? Because I don't want GLaDOS constantly nagging.
Fantastic. You remain resolute and resourceful in an atmosphere of extreme pessimism.
Yeah. By the way, just a random note. In all of Valve's games, whenever there's a voice line where a player is being told by someone to do something, and then the player, if they don't do it, keeps getting mentioned. Like if Alex from Half-Life 2 keeps telling Gordon to do something, or GLaDOS keeps telling you that the test chamber is impossible, those secondary versions of the voice lines are usually called a nag. The lines typically are like GLaDOS nag 01 sort of thing for this particular chamber, and so that's why I often I refer to them with those things, because that's just where the first instance of that kind of thing that I came across in game design stuff.
For the first few months of development, we rendered the views through portals to 2 off-screen textures. This approach was easy to implement and was compatible with a wide range of graphics hardware. Unfortunately, this method was incompatible with anti-aliasing and consumed a large amount of video memory in order to handle recursive views through several portals. Because of these disadvantages, we switched to a system which renders portal views recursively into the frame buffer with the aid of the stencil buffer to isolate pixels corresponding to a given portal. This is a more effective scheme because it is compatible with anti-aliasing and does not consume any additional video memory for off-screen textures.
Yeah, difficult to do though, difficult to do well. Involves shader coding, which is something that's still relatively foreign to me. Okay, this one.
Because our test chamber environments were simplified for training purposes, we created visual hotspots within the rooms to guide players' attention. The design is essentially a balance between round objects and sharp objects. The sharp objects representing background elements, and the round objects, such as doors and movable props, comprising our points of visual interest.
Yeah. Hence all of the circular aperture design versus this very square level design most of the time.
Hello again. To reiterate, previous one. Momentum.
Portal momentum ended up being the hardest concept to convey. For this series of puzzles, which went through more design iterations than virtually any other part of the game, we introduced the idea of redirecting your momentum using portals, slowly, step by step. We even have the AI voice pretty explicitly explain the elements of the puzzle, something we avoided throughout most of the rest of the game.
I remember this being confusing when I was playing it on PlayStation. For whatever reason, when I originally used to try and walk through this portal here, I would always fall. And so I had to like jump as I went through there. I don't know if that was just a PlayStation 3 era, but I remember having issues with this one to start with.
Using gravity to fall into one portal so that you come rocketing out the other portal, a skill we call flinging, was another difficult concept to train. We designed a specific visual cue, a pushed-out concrete block with checkerboard tile above a pit, to indicate to players that it's time to use the fling maneuver. Repeated several times, this cue helps players associate pushed-out concrete slabs with flinging, in much the same way that players learn to associate cubes with buttons.
So yeah, the stuff like this where it's sticking out of the wall, and stuff like this where it's checkered on the floor, rather than just the standard flat white or flat grey.
Spectacular. You appear to understand how a portal affects forward momentum, or to be more precise, how it does not.
Alrighty. I'm just going to activate this now.
Originally, these exit portal surfaces were static geometry in the final position, but playtesters stubbornly refused to look up to find them. This is another example of the classic game design problem of coaxing players to look up. By putting the portals on moving pistons, we were able to start them in a position that players were more likely to see.
Yeah. Looking up in game design is a very common issue. Getting the player to actually look up, see what they're supposed to be seeing, you know. I skipped a section. That was the last node, wasn't it?
Original.
Yeah, it was, I'm not going to go through this fast.
The Enrichment Center promises to always provide a safe testing environment. In dangerous testing environments, the Enrichment Center promises to always provide useful advice. For instance, the floor here will kill you. Try to avoid it.
Very useful.
We found that rather than looking into portals to see where it went, playtesters would often leap blindly to their doom. In response to this observation, the moral of this puzzle is, look before you leap. The safe orange portal is out of the player's view from this balcony. That forces them to peer through a portal to see it, which trains players in the remote viewing capabilities of portals.
Yeah. Interestingly, that kind of remote viewing was really vital in Narbacular Drop, the original Portal game, if you will.
Originally, a weighted button was used to open the far door, but playtesters so strongly associated boxes with buttons that they'd get stuck searching hopelessly for a box. We changed the big button to a pedestal-mounted push button, thus removing the box association, but playtesters still had trouble realizing they needed to shoot a portal through the door. Adding a ticking timer sound when the door was open cued players that the puzzle expected them to act during that time, which solved the problem.
If you're really clever, so you can sort of do a weird walk through the portal fireball and walk back through it and get where you want to go, but I'm not bothering with that. I'm just gonna play the level as you would play.
This room is designed to build anticipation for the big moment when players finally get the fully powered portal gun. The puzzle path brings you in a circle around the device, so that it's virtually always in sight, right up until you grab it.
Spiral around it until you actually finally get it.
The device has been modified so that it can now manufacture 2 linked portals at once. As part of an optional test protocol, we are pleased to present an amusing fact. The device is now more valuable than the organs and combined incomes of everyone in
Subject hometown, yeah.
Just making sure that was
This room is
that was number 3. What was number 4? I don't remember. Is there more chambers after this? There it is. Just let GLaDOS talk first.
Get ready to fling yourself. Fling into space.
Okay.
Player training doesn't always stick, especially after the introduction of a big new concept. For instance, after they had acquired the fully powered portal device, playtesters often forgot about the fling maneuver. Since it's such an important skill, this puzzle is designed to reintroduce the idea of flinging.
simple one, but yeah. I'm just gonna check that that was the last one.
Player training.
Yeah, it was. Cool. Nope. Oh god. Ah, that's how you get to this one. I forgot about this one. Damn. I'm just gonna put this here and jump down. Okay. Just quickly finish the level. There we go. It's amazing how much longer a developer commentary run takes versus a speed run, or like, you know, a quick playthrough. Ah, the quintessential
Now that you are in control of
level.
both portals, this next test could take a very, very long time. If you become lightheaded from thirst, feel free to pass out.
I love this line as well.
An intubation associate will be dispatched to revive you with peptic salve and adrenaline.
I love that. Feel free to pass out.
When we moved from largely placeholder art to our final visual design, this was the first level to get a facelift. We chose this map because it had many of our gameplay elements integrated into a relatively small space. The test chamber art direction was designed to make everything appear purposefully placed. The simple design helps focus players on the puzzles. It also provides a nice contrast to the later, much less sterile behind-the-scenes environments, which contributes to a clear sense of progression.
Alright. I think I'm still gonna skip most of this level.
This is the first map in which we experimented with solving the puzzle in as few portal placements as possible. We tried to fit that concept into the story mode, but were never quite able to sell it.
Nah.
Instead of abandoning the idea altogether, we added the concept to a series of post-game challenge maps.
Yeah, I think that's... I'm very much glad that they did that. Because if they had designed it, made it like a requirement in the story, they would have really... I think that would have hindered people's enjoyment.
As part of a previously mentioned required test protocol, we can no longer lie to you. When the testing is over, you will be missed.
She's not going to mention that. No.
A problem we came across with virtually any puzzle involving boxes and doors was that the players could portal the boxes to the other side of the door, thereby trapping themselves in a room with buttons but no boxes. We set up special triggers to detect and handle these cases, and then added the box delivery tubes to ensure players could always be supplied with the required tools.
Yeah, I think this is one of those moments. But I'll leave it for now. Yeah, because if you get through here with the boxes, you can trap yourself. It's one of the rooms where you can trap yourself technically. So you have to put little like safety nets around them. I have a feeling I was not so kind with the mod that we made. Pretty sure I was just like, nah, if they do that intentionally, and a few places you can do that in our mod, if you do that intentionally, you get punished with having to reload. Oh dear. Alright.
A few playtesters put a portal on the floor here, and used the rising stair pit to skip the rest of the puzzle.
As I did with the speedrun.
We'll usually rework a level if playtesters discover a way to bypass chunks of the puzzle too easily. But in this and a few other cases where skipping ahead arguably takes more skill than solving the puzzle properly, we let the ninja solution stand.
Yeah, the ninja solution as they always refer to it.
All subjects intending to handle high-energy gamma-leaking portal technology must be informed that they may be informed of applicable regulatory compliance issues. No further compliance information is required or will be provided, and you are an excellent test subject.
This is a great spot to appreciate the recursive nature of portals. If you place a portal on each side of this hallway, you'll notice the portals seem to go on forever, similar to the effect you get in a Hall of Mirrors. In actuality, we support a maximum of 9 recursive portal views down any chain of portals.
Yeah, that's right.
We achieve the impression of infinite recursion by copying part of the previously rendered frame onto the final portal in the recursive chain. It's not perfect, but it's inexpensive and effective.
Yeah. I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, they actually removed that for Portal 2. I have a feeling that they actually just reduced it to, if you see a portal, I think they reduced it to like something like 2 or 3, but I might be mistaken there. I'm not actually sure. I have a feeling they might have done it for the multiplayer version, or they did it for the versions that were going to be on, you know, PlayStation and Xbox.
We designed this room to draw the player's eyes to the box. The light from the observation room casts horizontal shadows that point at the box, which is directly lit by a warm light from the ceiling. This warm light helps the box stand out against the predominantly cool test chamber lighting. The varying size squares of the off-limits surface also help direct the player's attention upward.
Okay, wait a second. Now that I've seen all the developer commentaries, I'm just gonna skip this, if it will allow me. Is it going to allow me? Or have I screwed it up? I might have screwed it up. You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it a slightly easier way. Oh god. Why, camera? Why? It's probably the faster way of doing it, rather than going to the area with the stairs.
The Enrichment Center is committed to the well-being of all participants. Cake and brief counseling will be available at the conclusion of the test. Thank you for helping us help you help us all.
This particular section went through several iterations because it's the first place where players are required to perform possibly the trickiest portal maneuver, the double fling. Originally, the room also featured an energy ball redirection puzzle. Combined with a new double fling skill, however, it proved to be too much for most playtesters. Overwhelmed players tend to not digest new information, so we simplified the puzzle to require only the double fling. To nudge players in the right direction, we also included visual hints, such as the previously introduced single fling theme, the pushed out concrete slab with a checkerboard landing zone.
Yeah, checkerboard landing on the floor here, and then the pushed out space there. Yeah, double fling doesn't appear a hell of a lot in Portal 2 by comparison. Not a lot. There's a huge reduction in the momentum stuff in Portal 2 purely because of momentum, like real puzzles, not just momentum-based jumps and stuff. A lot of momentum stuff was removed. Not so much removed as they sort of just made way for the new mechanics of the game. Damn. Didn't quite get the placement. Alright.
This puzzle requires players to redirect an energy ball through multiple portal placements. The multiple steps cause many early playtesters to panic and accidentally redirect a ball right into themselves, with deadly results.
Yeah.
We redesigned the test chambers so that portals can only be placed in the top half of the room, which solved the problem by generally leaving players out of the ball's reach.
Yeah. So the whole bottom layer of this chamber basically is off limits for that reason.
We noticed through our playtest that many of our players weren't aware of the fact that you could place portals while falling. Since placing portals as you are falling is essential to accomplishing flings and many other portal tricks, we implemented this puzzle so that the only way to solve it was to use the mid-air placement tactic. It took numerous iterations and lots of tuning before this consistently played well.
Yeah. So yeah, essentially, yeah, this requires a new version of the double fling. I feel like there's a faster way to do this, but maybe that's just for the advanced chamber. I don't remember now. I think actually the way I just used to always do it, as I didn't bother with the fling, I used to go like this. Yeah, that's how I used to always do it. Just to be like, nope, I'm not gonna do it your way.
Perhaps the most important purpose of this final test chamber is to cement the double fling maneuver training. For previous flings, we employed a visual cue, a pushed out section of a wall. In preparation for the more freeform behind the scenes levels, however, we take the training wheels off.
Yeah.
To proceed, players must realize they can double fling almost anywhere they want to, with or without hints.
Yeah, so this one doesn't have any of those landmark things that other double fling areas had. I remember actually being confused by that when I first played Portal 1 all those years ago. One second, I'm just gonna check that this was...
We noticed
That was 3, that was 4...
Perhaps the most...
Yep, okay, all good. I was gonna be a good boy, do it normally.
In this puzzle, we wanted players to realize that using portals, they can travel long distances in a short step. Originally, we had stairs from the ground level to the upper rooms. Many playtesters, however, were
Just
able
tried
to
to
run
race.
from one room to the other quickly enough to consider it a solution, without ever thinking to use the even easier portal method. By changing the stairs to very slow-moving lifts, we were able to level the travel time for all player experience levels, thus making the intended solution more clear.
Yeah. Sometimes the stories you hear about the original playtesters, you think, God, how dumb were they? But no, it's just when you come up with a new kind of, you know, gameplay mechanic, gameplay style like this.
You can donate one or all of your vital organs to the Aperture Science Self-Esteem Fund for Girls. It's true.
This is something I'm just gonna randomly show off, just because it's something I haven't done in ages, but it's something that is cool about this level. I wonder if I can still do it. There we go.
Through no fault of the Enrichment Center, you have managed to trap yourself in this room. An escape hatch will open in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the second place, as far as I recall, that you can trap yourself. And they have to basically give you a safety net.
Due to mandatory scheduled maintenance, the appropriate chamber for this testing sequence is currently unavailable. It has been replaced with a live fire course designed for military androids. The Enrichment Center apologizes for the inconvenience and wishes you the best of luck.
For Portal, we wanted to create a turret that was different from the traditional Half-Life 2 turrets. The Half-Life 2 turrets are nothing more than mindless mounted guns. In Portal, we wanted the turrets to have personality, to be characters. The first step was a redesign of the look. Once we had the look of the new turrets, they seemed less like menacing machine guns and more like cute robots.
Yeah.
And robots can never really be cute until they are talking robots. So the next step was creating the vocal characteristics of the turrets. Working with Ellen McLean, we settled on an innocent-sounding voice with dialogue to match. This juxtaposition of killing machine and innocent, non-aggressive personality ends up making the Portal turret a memorable character.
Yeah. Ellen McLean. I love her work.
Even though we didn't want Portal to be too combat heavy, we wanted to add at least a light combat mechanic. After a few less than successful attempts to actually realize this light combat concept, we settled on turrets as a good compromise. The turrets can be defeated with tricky portal maneuvers, but they're also susceptible to a more straightforward berserker approach.
Syntax error. I love the turrets. That's the whole point. I think this is where one of the nodes is.
Even though Portal tells a simple story, we created a lot of backstory. For Aperture Science, for its employees, for its rivalry with the hated Black Mesa, and for where all of this fits into the cosmology of Half-Life.
Yeah.
This first Portal game doesn't reveal all of it, but we crammed a lot of little details into the environments. This area, for instance, called the Ratman Den, hints that there may be other people trapped in the facility.
What I'll probably do is I'll probably skip the rest. I mean, in the video I'll skip the rest of this chamber because there's no more. That was the last one, wasn't it? Even though, yeah.
Well done, Android. The Enrichment Center once again reminds you that Android Hell is a real place where you will be sent at the first sign of defiance.
Yeah, so I'll leave this here for now. I know I'm most of the way through the game, but I'm out of time, unfortunately. So I'll edit this and I'll upload this, and I'll do a second episode on this tomorrow, and I'll follow that up with the first episode of the Portal 2 developer commentary, and we'll continue from there. Yeah, so some interesting stuff. Like, I've really loved talking about some of the thoughts and stuff that go behind, go into the decisions that are made for video games like this. So yeah, expect the next episode tomorrow. If you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more of these in the series or some of my gameplay videos, hit subscribe so you can keep up with all of my videos, all my uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and as always,